There are two men in that jungle who are trying to steal from me. I feel like a little boy who's lost his first tooth, put it under his pillow waiting for the tooth fairy to come. Only two evil burglars have crept in my window and snatched it before she could get here.
Ha fatto dos...
Wait a second. Do you understand the concept of the tooth fairy? Explain it to me.
Ha fala dos dentes, idiotas. Você perdiu um dente? Ah? Põe debaixo. Almofada. Fado.
Wait, she takes the goddamn thing, gives you a quarter. They got my tooth. I want it back.
You are listening to TMBDOS. They must be destroyed on sight. The following podcast may contain language and discussions of a frank and adult nature, and spoilers regarding the films discussed are always to be expected. Thank you for joining us. Now start the show, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
And we are live. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 145. And I'm your host, Lee. You're threatening me? You're threatening me with P. Russell. Joined by my co-host, Daniel. I'd offer you a beer, but it seems you blew up my bar, Harper. And we have two special guests. First off, returning from last week, Greg. I hate penis-eating minnows, and I hate freaky fruit. Bylowski, how you doing, sir?
This is all 100% true. I'm doing great. I literally just watched this movie, and I'm fresh from it, and I still don't remember those quotes you're talking about. That's how bad my memory is.
Well, we'll get into forgetting this movie after watching it, I think, when we discuss it. And then we are joined for the first time by a friend of mine from another podcast that we do together, Scott. Enlighten me, Summerton. How you doing, sir?
Enlighten you. Nice. Very, very good. How are you, sir?
Good, good. So we are going to yet again sort of go out of our wheelhouse this time out, thanks to Daniel, who's programming the podcast till the end of the year. And we're going to be looking at
only until the end of the year. Like this is what's determined, right? There's no way this goes into January because otherwise we'll just hemorrhage all of our listeners. That's
actually, well, the sad thing is we've been gaining listeners since you took over, so I might have to relinquish some fucking control here.
You mean that doing things other than horror films with vampires from between 1968 and 1978 is something that people might actually want to listen to? Be gone, foul sir.
I didn't know what I was thinking. But yeah, so we're going to be covering The Rundown from 2003, the WWE produced and starring The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And that should be an interesting discussion. But before we get into that, we have a few comments to get through. So first off, Dare Bourgois says, The Rundown is a fun ride. I remember watching it with my dad all the time when it first came out and enjoying the fun adventure aspect. The Rock fighting with Stifler and Walken doing what he does best, being Walken. Can't wait to hear the episode, guys. Yeah, thank you. Jay Deering has a different opinion. This is in relation to the fact that we're also going to be doing The Transporter tomorrow night and put that in the can for the week following when we release The Rundown. He says, Statham and Dwayne Johnson, check please. And then he had a little animated gif of Danny DeVito shaking his head no. So there you go. Apparently Jay Deering is not a fan of modern action films and action stars, which I can totally relate to. It's not necessarily something I'm a great fan of either, but we'll get into that when we talk about the film. And then finally, our friend Mike Murphy from Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts podcast says, so I guess you're out of movies to cover.
Well, that's common to the show.
Yeah, we love you, Mike. Fuck you, buddy.
Well, maybe maybe we should turn that back on Mike because they're only doing one episode a month these days. So apparently they're the ones who have run out of content.
And also, I think Mike also knows the trials and tribulations of relinquishing the show programming to his co-hosts as well, because they do a rotating thing where they're each month one of them gets to pick a movie and they do it. So he's been at the whim of his co-hosts as well. So don't pick on me as much, Mike. Just don't.
Yeah, pick on me, Mike. Seriously.
I think Daniel has used great discretion. I kind of expected he'd be like having you review hardcore pornography.
We've gotten close.
We've done
sometimes.
that. We've gotten pretty close. Maybe we'll do Hot and Saucy Pizza Girls for Christmas. I'm considering it.
Well.
Okay, I thought I heard all your shows, but I need to go back to some of them sober because goddamn.
So, Scott, since you are a first-time guest on the show, you get to step into the honored tradition of being the victim of Movie God, the Movie God game.
Are you a god?
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say, yes!
So, for people listening who have not heard the rules to this, basically I give the person I'm asking 2 actors, 2 movies, 2 producers, 2 composers, something to do with movies. And Scott has to make the decision to eliminate one of these things from the timeline. So he has to take into consideration the fact of everything that would not be made if one of these people was eliminated. So you have to make sort of a tough choice here. Scott, I think I know your tastes fairly well. You're a big movie nerd like we are. And I picked 2 people that their careers are intertwined somewhat. They've both had arguably probably one of the biggest pop culture impacts on movies. And one of the biggest
now. I'm worried now.
And one of the biggest impacts on how movies have been made since about the 1970s onward. So, Scott, you are the movie god, and you must eliminate one of these 2 people: Steven Spielberg or George Lucas.
Not who I thought. Okay.
Way to go for the obscure choices there, Lee.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Well,
Well,
do we look them up first, or see who they are?
These are really obscure filmmakers.
These are real indie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, Spielberg he's much more prolific in his output, and from everything from directing to producing to writing, you talk like the animation and games even, and Emblem and everything. So that's kind of a crazy thing that he championed so much. Indiana Jones, John Williams, all these, like there's so much that he's touched that I can't fathom it without that. Lucas might not be not prolific, but like there's not as much there, but what is there is arguably as big or bigger because Disney bought it for like $4 billion or whatever with Star Wars. But not only that, but ILM and sound design and John Williams. So he would have been fine either way. But so, oh God, if there was no Star Wars, Disney would have bought something else for $4 billion. The world still would go on. I'd probably have to say George Lucas goes. Because Spielberg just did like 5 to 6 times more things that affected more things. Like the reason blockbusters exist is Jaws. So I'll always kind of go back to that. That was that. Star Wars came from that. Spielberg stays is what I would say. Okay, so you'd effectively, like, what would Indiana Jones be without George Lucas as part of that? A little more Bond, because Spielberg wanted to do a Bond movie, could never get it, and he ended up creating Indiana Jones as a throwback to the old serials. And I think the 4th Indy would have been better, because Lucas was the one who caused a lot of the delays and slowdowns on that, and that's why we didn't get one for a while, because all 3 parties had to be involved. We might even have more Indiana Jones movies, for all we know.
I think arguably without, I mean, you're right that Jaws was kind of the first blockbuster, but I think without Star Wars being the absolute fucking phenomenon that it was, the blockbuster era might not have run at all the way that it did, frankly, you know?
We still would have had Back to the Future produced. We still would have had E.T., Close Encounters.
But, I mean, Back to the Future is 10 years into this era, you know? I mean, I'm just kind of like thinking, you know, I kind of want to kill them both. Like, make sure neither one of them has a career, just to see what like 70s cinema might have borne without, you know, movies made for 12-year-old boys with $1 billion to spend. Yeah,
that interestingly goes into some of the action hero stuff of the 80s, because that was the bombastic stuff that came out to satisfy the blockbuster audiences. And if you didn't need to satisfy them, would they have existed? And you get into weird stuff like that, because the action heroes of the 80s didn't exist. You had your French Connections and things like that instead. So where things would have gone, I have no idea. It's kind of fascinating to think, but yeah.
I think my favorite movie of all time, Sorcerer, would have been one of the biggest box offices in the 1970s.
I think without either one of these directors, we'd be on Zardoz Part 10 by now.
Yes, we need to make sure neither one had a career. Also, if you get rid of Steven Spielberg, you don't have Schindler's List, which is arguably one of the worst films ever made. So
no Schindler's List, no Saving Private Ryan, one of the better war movies, I think. But at the same time, Lucas goes, you lose ILM and Skywalker Sound, and a lot of that goes. So you'd still, those people still would have made what they made, but they wouldn't have been in the environment they were. So visual effects could actually suffer overall by that choice. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's a weird thing, though. It's like, where would have those sort of geniuses found their home? Like, where would they have been collected? If not under that banner, where would they have gone? And would we have jumped into CGI stuff as early as we did?
Yeah. Well, part of it, too, was with Lucas, the way he was, it was very under budget. He had to fight for what he was doing. Before the Phantom Menace days of yes men giving him money, he had to fight and claw to figure it out, and they were using street lights and beer cans for spaceships. That's the kind of thing where they got the best of the best to make this stuff work. If that never happened, those people wouldn't have been in those crunches. Maybe it wouldn't have been there. You just don't know where that would have gone. The Spielberg side, though, he championed film for the longest time, but Lucas was all digital. So you have literally the yin and yang of that argument involved here too. And if you had one of the biggest people saying, no, shoot on film, go, that would have drastically changed things way sooner, because then you're basically just left with Christopher Nolan making that argument in 2008 compared to Spielberg back in 98. So very, very different in that regard too.
I like your decision, Scott. I think you made a pretty wise one here. I think I would kill Lucas as well, especially with the film versus digital argument, because I side on the Quentin Tarantino side of that argument, where it's like, let's do film, fuck digital. Although I think he's maybe dipped into digital now at some point.
Not for nothing. Digital's gotten good.
Yeah.
But there just is an aspect of, like, there's a craftsmanship to film, so.
Yeah.
I shot at it in film school, and I was one of the last ones at my college. It all became, we shoot on film, and you don't see the dailies. It's all digitally processed, and there's just something different. When you hold 24 frames, and that's 1 second, and you're holding it, it drastically changes how you look at editing and things like that. And that's getting lost when you can just do it on your phone. Yeah, you can do it, but there's something lost in it. So
right. Yeah. Putting a filter on it doesn't substitute actual film.
Yeah.
That's great. Well done, Scott. Well done. So does anyone have anything they've watched lately? I'll just ask again, or can we move on?
Can move on, I think.
All right. So we're going to take our first break, and we'll play some music and some podcast promos, and then we're going to come back and talk about the rundown.
You ungodly warlock.
Hello, and welcome to Hello, This is the Doom Show. I'm Richard.
And I hate the burning.
Shh, who are you? Speak.
And I'm Brad.
She came in and said, "Buck, buck, buck," and he said, "Buck, buck, buck," and she said, "Buck, buck, buck, buck." That's what I got.
One is the Suspiria boner. The other's the Inferno boner. Anyway.
Which one is crying? The boner of tears.
Hello, This is the Doomed Show is available on hellodoomedshow.podomatic.com and doomedmoviethon.com.
Hello, this is the Doom Show. Richard, Brad, Jeffrey, Naffa. It's the Doom Show. Hello, this is the Doom Show. Slashers, Giallo, and horror.
You ungodly warlock.
A young cowboy named Billy Joe grew restless on the farm. A boy filled with wanderlust who really meant no harm. He changed his clothes and shined his boots and combed his dark hair down. And as his mother cried as he walked out. Don't take your guns to town, son. Leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town. He laughed and kissed his mom and said, "You're Billy Joe's the man. I can shoot as quick and straight as anybody can. But I wouldn't shoot without a cause, I'd gun nobody down." But she cried again as he rolled away. Don't take your guns to town, son. Leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town. He sang a song as on he rode, his guns hung at his hips. He rode into a cattle town, a smile upon his lips. He stopped and walked into a bar and laid his money down. But his mother's words echoed again. Don't take your guns to town, son. Leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town. He drank his first strong liquor then to calm his shaking hands, and tried to tell himself at last he had become a man. A dusty cowpoke at his side began to laugh him down, and he heard again his mother's words. Don't take your guns to town, son. Leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town. Filled with rage, then Billy Joe reached for his gun to draw. But the stranger drew his gun and fired before he even saw. As Billy Joe fell to the floor, the crowd all gathered round and wondered at his final words. Don't take your guns to town, son. Leave your guns at home, Bill. Don't take your guns to town.
All right. The Rundown from 2003.
One job, I wipe your slate clean. You walk out of this house a free man.
How much?
250 large.
No problem.
He's come to the other side of the world.
Is that duct tape?
To finish one last job.
I'm looking for a man. His name's Travis Walker. Brown hair, face like a weasel.
Do I know you?
I'm taking you home, Travis.
What's in Los Angeles?
Your father.
You're not done.
So angry! Shut up.
If only it were that simple. Apparently, he stumbled onto a trinket of some value in my jungle.
Yep. I want it back.
Wow. Whatever my father is paying you, I will double it.
No.
I'll quadruple it.
No.
I'll double it and quadruple it.
Hell no.
I hope you enjoy the fall.
Now what fall? Let's go.
Heads up.
Oh, you got the little birdie up there. Caw-caw.
Shut up.
Well, you always got to hit me.
We gotta get to this tree.
Got it?
I got it. Great. What is he doing?
Establish dominance.
I want hunting parties. Find them.
Find them.
I do not want to fight you. We are not fighting.
Okay, hip-hop. Don't worry, they're little people.
What?
You can take them, they're little.
Boom, 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 boom.
You guys fight hard.
I swallow cows.
The Rundown.
You
got the moves. I'll give you that.
Directed by Peter Berg, written by R.J. Stewart and James Vanderbilt. It is starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Beck, Sean William Scott as Travis Alfred Walker, Rosario Dawson as Mariana, Christopher Walken as Cornelius Bernard Hatcher, Ewan Bremer as Declan, John Grease as Harvey, Ernie Rees Jr. as Manito, William Lucking as Billy Walker, Antonio Muniz as Kontiki Rebel, Stephen Bishop as Nat Miller, Arnold Schwarzenegger in an uncredited cameo as bar patron, and I also just want to mention, because this basically just ties back to last week, Sven Ole Thorson as well in an uncredited cameo as Goon. Synopsis here I pulled from IMDb. A tough, aspiring chef is hired to bring home a mobster's son from the Amazon, but becomes involved in the fight against an oppressive town operator in the search for a legendary treasure. And that's from Hell to Pay 27. So there was like 26 other people had Hell to Pay as a username in IMDb before that. That's great. What do you guys think of that synopsis?
Or this guy created that 26 times and forgot his password.
Yeah,
I like to think he went back to like 1995, like creating that same account over and over again. God damn it, I can't remember.
He went through like so many like GeoCities emails and stuff. Yeah,
GeoCities, AOL.com, like Mindspring, whatever, yeah. Like going back to dial-up, that same guy just keeps having to. God, I can't remember my email again.
Fuck it, Hell to Pay 27. It is. That's great. But yeah, so Scott, since you're a new guest on here, you get to do the honors and give your sort of general thoughts on this film.
Okay, well, I can go full disclosure on this one. I'd actually reviewed this on my web series, which the episode is offline thanks to blip issues, but that's another story. It was back in 2012. It was one of the first dozen or so that I did. My whole shtick is I look at the guilty pleasures, but I quantify that as movies that are kind of underappreciated. Not so bad it's good, but just look, this is good, give it a shot. And I think this always fell in line for me with that. I actually lucked out and saw this on an early screening, like a week early. They were playing it here. We had a full audience, and they were hooting and hollering and loving it. It really had a throwback feel to some of the over-the-top 80s action in a good way, but it knew what it was. That's always the most important thing I feel with a movie like this. As long as it knows what it is and runs with it, that's fine. Like there's so much over the top crazy stuff in this, but the characters treat it seriously in its own way. To tangent a tiny second over, it's very like Pacific Rim. That movie so balls out over the top, but everybody in it treats it deadly serious. Same idea here. It's like no matter what they're doing, it's serious, even though the movie has people flipping and flying around in some of the fight scenes. I think this was the Rock's third or fourth movie. He basically was given a cameo in Mummy Returns. They made Scorpion King for him, and then it was pretty much this. And he had Be Cool around there as well, and then Doom, and then did all these kids movies, and then had his Fast and Furious come back with crazy over the top stuff, where now he's figured it out. This movie, I feel like you could tell this guy's got charisma and he can make this work. He's just got to find the right connections to pull it off. Not all his movies had that back in the day. They didn't know what to do with this guy. They didn't know how to have him own that chemistry and what to go with. Here, he wasn't Dwayne Johnson. He was The Rock in the credits. So
yeah,
that was still very much back in that time, but he was really showing what he can do. And he carries this movie, I feel, in a huge way, thanks to that charisma. He makes it work. He very much is a throwback to those 80s types where he's larger than life and you're on board, I feel. The other main part I always remembered was the score. I love the music in this movie. The rousing theme, and then how it gets intense and serious in moments, but it's always this kind of like action adventure. Probably my favorite kind of movie.
I noticed there's 2 or 3 cuts in the actual like soundtrack that are like modern hip hop songs that sample like classic AC/DC style rock, and then like basically like rap over it.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff too, admittedly. Yeah, but it's a basic plot about just go in there and get the guy. And then things go south. Honestly, The Rundown's the worst title. Welcome to the Jungle was better, even though he ended up using that for Jumanji. And Hell Dorado is what it should have been called.
Yeah.
The Rundown's a boring title, but whatever. It really was built around making this guy look good, and let's see if he can carry a franchise. And he was almost ahead of his time in it because it took him about 10 years to figure out how.
Yeah.
So, but this movie, I loved it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, Walken is insane, as he is, but he plays well off of it. And Peter Berg, this was, I think, his second movie.
Yeah, it was right after Very Bad Things, I think.
That's the one, yeah. Like, he's gone on to what now? Lone Survivor and what? Deepwater Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
Battleship, the classic
Battleship. Hey, I will tell you, I love Battleship, but that's a different story.
So I think he did, what was the Will Smith superhero movie?
Hancock.
Hancock, yeah.
This guy knows action, and there's so much kinetic, up-close takes in this. You can watch this movie along with, like, a Taken movie, and you get almost, maybe not Taken 3, but you get the same number of cuts between the action, and it's very quick. But this one, at least, it's pulled back so you can see what's going on. I'll compare it to another hated movie, Live Free or Die Hard. I love the action in that movie. It's so kinetic, and it's in your face, and it, like, stuff is sweeping in front of the camera to get you into the moment and bring you in there. And when the whip fighting is happening, and he's throwing chairs around and stuff like that, it all goes well with that. It really is dynamic and grounded while people are being thrown into trees. So it's a very hard thing to pull off, but he managed it in his second movie, and then he's actually gone on to do very good things, very poorly received things, but I think it was just kind of a perfect storm for everybody. And I always say Stifler was fun. He worked in this. He kind of fell off the map, honestly, after this. And I don't know. There's just something about it, something about the charm and the character in it. One awesome line is when The Rock is holding up stuff while Stifler's trying to grab something. And he's like, I think I found it. That this might actually be it. And Rock goes, I don't give a shit. Yeah, that's good. That's good. More of that. Like, these characters seem almost natural. It's like, this is heavy. Move on. It's a lot of fun. That's when I saw that you were doing this, I'm like, dude, I gotta talk about this movie. This movie's fun. People need to know about it because it's underappreciated. People forget about this, I feel, and don't even kind of acknowledge that it's a thing. It's like, it's some throwaway movie. Nah, there was good stuff in here. They were trying some things, and it just didn't quite hit its audience because it was almost
the trailer was
too late. Trailers were awful. Yes.
Awful. You know, that was. I think that sunk this more than anything else. Is that the trailer was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, it was almost like it was the wrong time for this movie. This movie would have worked better now when you see what he's like in Central Intelligence or the Fast movies, where he is this over the top, bombastic guy. He was doing that in 2003 in this movie. So
yeah. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Lee, first of all, I want to thank you for getting this professional movie viewer on the show and then putting him right in front of me so that now anything I have to say is going to sound very pedestrian in comparison.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
I'm always thinking about you, Greg. You know that.
Honestly, call me professional is the best thing of this whole episode.
Hold on. Are you getting paid for this, Scott? Because that's what professional means.
I'm getting paid in experience and exposure. So
he's professional in this conduct, not like the rest of us schlubs. I don't know. I mean, I kind of look at this movie kind of like it's a sequel to the American Pie movies. It's also a prequel to the Fast and the Furious movies. You have sort of a more... You have more of an advanced Stifler, like he's a little bit past his childish pranks, but he's still kind of an idiot. And you got The Rock. He's not quite just able to destroy an entire army yet, but he's getting there. So that's kind of where this movie is in that timeline of that series. You know, I enjoyed this movie. I didn't think it was I don't think I'm quite as enthusiastic as the last fellow was. Sorry, what's your name, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, I suck with names. I don't know. I'm not quite as enthusiastic about it as you, but there's definitely a lot of good things in this movie. Overall, the movie for me, let's put it this way. I like the second half a lot more than I like the first half. I thought kind of establishing it, they didn't quite know if it was a comedy or a action movie or what it was. But again, I did like The Rock's performance. You definitely see like he's not quite the action star he was, he is now, but he's kind of getting there. He still has that charisma. Like, I still maintain, I think he's the only real action star that can really compare to 80s Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know Jason Statham's, I know you're going to discuss him tomorrow. And, I know he's got his pluses and, I guess some people might even like Vin Diesel, but he's kind of a bit of one note character. So I don't know. I think The Rock is really the only one that can kind of really compete with that cheesy macho 80s Schwarzenegger fella. I don't know. Like I did enjoy this movie overall. It's one of those movies I don't think I'd be upset if I had never seen. I don't really think it's any particularly important movie. Like, some of the movies, like even the movies we discussed last week, I really do feel like if you're an action movie connoisseur, the last two movies, especially Commando, were really important to see. Whereas this one's kind of, you saw it, you didn't see it. But again, it came together at the end. I actually really liked the end. I liked how it was still early 2000s, so they weren't quite censoring and making everything, kid friendly. They actually did show people getting shot. They show people getting killed. It's like, oh no, little Billy is going to see this and get traumatized. Oh no, we can't have that. No, that was sort of still before the SJW era that we have now. And yeah, I mean, overall, like I did enjoy the movie. I don't think it's necessary to see if you don't really, if you're not like, I guess, a big fan of Stifler or The Rock or just really want to see every action movie ever made. But it's a solid movie. It was a fun ride. I don't regret seeing it. Probably won't watch it again.
All right, Daniel.
There is one factor in this movie that no one has mentioned yet, and that is Rosario Dawson.
Oh,
yeah, I was going to get to that.
yeah. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. So I saw this late night cable sometime, after like 2004, 2005, whatever, and it literally just kind of came on. I had seen the trailer. God, that looks like horse shit. Any movie in a jungle post Tomb Raider. Yeah, this is going to be a piece of shit. I'm not interested in this. I don't want to watch, rich people wander through leafy greens for, an hour and a half. I happened to catch this on for the opening sequence where you get the Arnold Schwarzenegger walking by and then you get, The Rock walking in and doing his like badass, which is one of the best little setting up the badassery of a character in any movie ever, of him just completely annihilating this entire offensive line. And I was sold. I'm like, okay, I want to see this fucking movie. I'm done. I am right here with this right now. I am on board with this. And as far as I'm concerned, it really only gets better. Stifler, Sean William Scott. When I first saw it, yeah, those scenes with him, especially with the thunder and lightning stuff, got really overwhelming and just kind of like they felt like they kind of last forever. Rewatching it this week, I thought, yeah, that's not so bad. I mean, I'm much less annoyed with Stifler now than I was in 2004, 2005, whatever. So I think that stuff basically works, although, it's a gag that doesn't quite work. But I think other than that, I think Sean William Scott kind of gives it his all. I would love to see a series of movies of these two kind of going on adventures together because I do think they have great chemistry. And dear God, I mean, any film that's got Rosario Dawson as a barmaid turned revolutionary, I'm there. Yes, hello. Really, any film with Rosario Dawson, yes. She's amazing, of course.
It's not just Rosario Dawson. It's often sweaty Rosario Dawson
serving you a beer. That's that's the key there.
With a few buttons undone on her shirt, Rosario Dawson.
Indeed. The one big one of the one big negatives is that she doesn't get to kind of have a big badass scene at the end. She kind of gets fridged. She's like tied to a post and then just kind of runs around. And I would really like to see her kind of be a badass at the end, and that's unfortunate. But, that does just kind of speak to the 2003-ness of this film. But yeah, no, this is just pure pleasure to my pineal gland or whatever. I am 100% on board with this film. It makes me happy. I love rewatching it. I have not rewatched it recently, but it is one of those that I always think back to fondly. Almost every element in this film works for me. Also, Commando, great film, terrible politics. Our hero is going down and beating down leftist revolutionary movements in Central America. This film says, hey, maybe the miners in Central America or in South America are actually human beings who deserve to not live under the oppressive force of our good friend Christopher Walken. And maybe that guy's an asshole. And I think that's a good message. I think that's a better message, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
I love the I don't use guns until he does at the end. It's such a cheesy moment, but it makes me cheer every time. It's such a great little
he reloaded them under his arms.
He
And then
He's
shots
just-
with them at the same time with one hand.
There's so much like little bits like that. One of my favorite. I'm just going to throw this in now, and then I'm going to turn it over here. But one of my favorite little moments in the film, and this is equal to in Commando, where Arnold just like pulls the lock off the chain link fence, because he's just a superhero. My favorite little moment. I mean, it's not even a little moment; it's a big moment. But there's a bit where the Rock is being shot at, and he has to launch himself across an alley into a concrete pillar and just like hits it with his shoulder and demolishes it with the force of his, that's how strong this guy is. And then he goes through and like breaks down the rest of the wooden pillars and all the soldiers go flying off. I just love any movie that can just make me go, yeah, of course this guy is just that strong. Sure, I love it. This film makes me happy. It's great. And I will just reiterate everything Scott already said. He, really, you didn't need me for this one. Scott already said it.
So here's the thing. This is an incredibly enjoyable film. At the same time, I do find the plot itself overall is kind of forgettable. Like after watching it, I don't quite remember what happened other than I really enjoyed it for the most part. But
so tell me what the plot of Commando is.
Exactly.
There is a Commando.
That was the point I was going for. It works in that fashion as just sort of like it hits all of your endorphin centers or whatever, and just sort of gets you engaged into it. Like most films with The Rock that he stars in, he's usually the best thing in them. And this is early Rock. This is Rock still not him finding his way. It's more like the people making the movies trying to fit him into a certain thing and trying to see what they can do with him. I really like him in this. I think my favorite movies with him are Faster from 2010 and Walking Tall in 2004, which just basically followed this. But when he's doing like the more of a throwback to 70s exploitation, he really works really well. But he's really good in this. Rosario Dawson is just visually delicious in this film. Just watching her, and it's like she's underused in this film. You're right, Daniel. She should have had some big moment at the end. Like she should have cut Christopher Walken's head off with a machete or something.
Or his balls off with a knife. Or something,
right. Call back to the penis fish or whatever.
Yeah. Or
the penis fish.
I will say my wife because she watched the opening bit of this film with me and then just kind of like tuned out and was on her phone like playing a game or whatever. And the joke with her is, oh yeah, this is a film I really like. It's just like, is there a sassy brunette in it? And I'm like, of course there's a fucking sassy brunette in it.
Yet again, yes.
But she didn't realize. I'm like, no, Rosario Dawson's in that. And she went, oh, Rosario Dawson was in that? I'm like, yeah. And she said, oh, well, I'm going to have to watch it then. Well, yeah, you should have watched it when I was watching it. But anyway.
And yeah, I actually forgot that she was in this.
How?
Because when I first watched it, and it was the only time I watched it until doing it for the podcast, was back in 2004 when it came out on video. And so
still, I'm very disappointed.
Fuck you. It was a long time ago. But no, this is fun. I like it a lot. I think sometimes maybe the film tries a little too hard to be cool in its action scenes. Like sometimes it's a little too slickly edited. I feel like every action scene tries a little too hard to be better than the previous one, which gets a little annoying for me. I'm always just sort of nitpicky about guys walking away from explosions and looking cool. That's one film trope that I can't stand anymore.
The real key to the action here is that it's like all hand-to-hand combat, or kind of hand to whip or hand to, it's all The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Beck doing things with furniture around him, which seems very inspired by what Jackie Chan was doing around this time or a little bit earlier. And I feel like it fills that same need for me, Well, because obviously this is ridiculous, but it's also like just super fun, right?
Well, and it also implements his wrestling background because he can just physically do that kind of stuff athletically anyway. So, I mean, he actually does do a couple wrestling moves in the actual film when he's doing the fight scenes. Although I would ask Scott, he'd know better than me. I don't think I've ever seen The Rock do a flying head scissors in the ring.
No.
But he does one in the film.
Yeah, no, pretty sure he's never done that before. He did hit a rock bottom in this one. He did another one in, I think, Furious 7. He even did a kip up. But he kept going and kicked two guys behind him.
Yeah,
like that's some of the action you're talking about, where it's like it's wire fu, and you can tell when the wire stops pulling them. It's a bit rough.
Oh no,
But
it
it's
turns
fun
into,
though, because you can see what they were going for. Like I'll give them the credit there, but yeah.
Yeah, when he's fighting the rebels, like
Oh
that's
my
when
God.
it starts getting really cartoonish. Like it turns into like over the top Tony Jaa territory, like the Protector and stuff like that. You know,
That's probably the weakest action scene in the film in
Mhm.
terms of why is this here, but also kind of fun on its own terms. Sort of like if you're willing to accept the ridiculous physics, it's fine. But
I think it kind of works simply because the music is in a weird upbeat way, and Stifler watching it is kind of in awe. Like, what is happening? This is what. So you're kind of on board with like, yeah, no, I'm agreeing. This is weird. What is happening? And it's okay. So they're kicking Rock around. It's whatever. But when he starts throwing them around and hitting them with that log on fire, I'm like, yep, nope, okay, we're good.
He hits a guy in the face with a burning log, and that guy walks away.
and they make up later. It's like that guy is horribly burnt and scarred for the rest of his life.
This is a guy who we started the movie seeing take out the offensive line or the defensive line, and what the line in the bathroom was, let me do it another night. No, they have a legit chance of repeating. I don't want to take that away from them.
Yeah.
Like he's saying, I'm going to beat up this football team. Is what he's saying.
I am absolutely going to annihilate this group of people whose entire professional career is built on hitting other very large people.
It plays on. You think that he's going to be like, no, the whole football team's here. I can't do it. But he's like, no, it's going to suck for the team. It's great. It's a fun aspect of it.
I do not want to do this to them. This is not something I want to do. But
and don't forget, after the Rebels, they have this whole like healing thing, and they talk about Tyson and Ali. But then bad guys show up and kill the Rebels.
Yeah, the Rebels.
It gets taken away from you immediately. I'm like,
the whole Tyson Ali thing I thought was kind of funny because. The Rock is kind of on Ali's side, and the other guy, I don't know what his name, the Rebel is. He sort of was more for Tyson at the beginning, and it was kind of the opposite in the fight because the Rock was the strong one, and the Rebel was the fast one, which was actually the opposite of who they rooted for. I kind of thought that was.
I think that's intentional. I think the key is to understand that. Each person has like an acknowledgement of the value of the other. It's a bonding moment. And really, I mean, that's another kind of downside to the film is that I really wish that guy had gotten to live and get to be in the final fight.
Right.
Yeah, he seemed like a wasted character.
Even Stifler got to have like a moment of don't be a coward, stand up, do the right thing. He got the gato. He got it at the end. So we should have had Dawson get one. We should have had this guy, Ernie Reyes Jr., who I remembered from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Oh yeah,
he was the kid in that.
The pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, that was him. So when I saw this, I was like, "No way, he's in this!" And he's always beating up the Rock. Okay, but yeah, like he could have easily done something more with this. It's a bit of a bummer that they literally killed him off after that scene. It really sucked because then the movie's in this upbeat tone from there. It's like, well, no, everybody just got murdered, but okay, let's have fun. Why? It's weird, but.
The good guys died, but we're now going to go kill all the bad guys. So at least there's that. I also, I'm just going to throw this in. Sorry, I do want to come back to you, but I do love that the villagers actually kill Christopher Walken at the end.
Do we actually know who shot him at the stomach at the end?
I think the thing is all the villagers surrounding him. It's kind of implied that they're all.
I am Spartacus.
Yeah, they're all they're all one big group that that it's a faceless kind of thing where it's just they're all against him and it doesn't matter who shot him. The point is that they finally put him down.
It's a very Western ending. But I like the fact that he's the villain for The Rock, but he's not The Rock's villain. He's got to go back to L.A. and deal with Stifler's dad. That's his villain of the story. He just needs to get what he needs and get out of here. They can take care of this guy locally. That's really unique. Like normally Arnold would have put a pole through the guy's chest, Commando. Like that, there's no way the Arnold wouldn't have done that if it was in the 80s. So it's interesting to see him just walk away from it.
Yeah, because he still gives the guy his choice too. You can still take option A. You can still walk out of here, and Christopher Walken's like, "Fuck you."
You can walk out of here. I won't do anything to you. Wink.
Yeah. The villagers are like, "We're not playing by your option A, option B bullshit. We're just going to shoot him." And then he's like, after he gets shot, I'm gonna take option A, and he tries to walk out of there, and it's like, it ain't working for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does anyone feel like this movie was sort of Christopher Walken playing a parody of Christopher Walken?
This was that sort of time period where he was sort of stunt casted into a lot of films. Like, let's get Christopher Walken to play the crazy Christopher Walken character. Booyah! Throw him in there. Like, but I mean, he's really reserved in this, though. He's not the crazy Christopher Walken. Like, he says crazy things, but he's not over the top or anything. As far as
he's like don't rock the boat, don't make waves. It's
No,
off
he
the
does it in
wall,
a very
but-
serial killer-ish way.
Yeah, like, explaining the tooth fairy bit, like when he's saying, "Go, I want my tooth," and he has to explain what the tooth fairy is because he might not know what that is. He's like, "It's got my tooth, I want it back." Like, he just gets frustrated. It's good because that over the topness does contrast well against The Rock. Like, he's able to be a larger than life. Like I said, with the Schwarzenegger comparison, I agree completely. He is the modern Schwarzenegger style. It works well when you have an over the top villain because a lot of Schwarzenegger's villains were either one note or forgettable. So you needed someone to be up on that level, and not many did. That's why you get things like the Predator or T-1000s eventually. Like, it takes that kind of thing. So Walken being a little wonky works. Or the devil.
Don't forget, he fought the devil.
Oh, the devil, yes.
Or the guy from Family Feud. That's really the great
Dawson. Oh, yeah. I could talk about that movie all day long.
Or the Sixth Day, where Schwarzenegger rescues himself in the ultimate nepotism I've ever seen in a movie. I'm going to save my clone.
Yeah,
that's so good.
Be careful. We might do Twins next week if
you fuck right off.
Oh, shit.
Somebody shares a Danny DeVito gif, and I'm like, okay, we're fucking doing Twins.
Jay Deering, you asshole. I want to point out that I really love Ewan Brimmer in this. He's fucking great from Train Spotting fame.
He's Declan, right?
Yeah, Declan. He's
with his duct tape plane.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want a movie all about him. You know, him flying people around in the jungle with his bum knee, and
I love the line where they're all gonna die. All right, get in the plane.
Mm-hmm.
It's such like I've just resigned myself to how terrible this world is, and yet he joins in to the rebellion. He's like, yeah, no, sure, I'll help out. I'll show up and put myself in danger for you to do this crazy suicidal thing. He has no indication that Beck is going to be able to completely annihilate an entire militia with his bare hands.
He just sits down and has a beer. It's like, I'm going to watch this. He's kind of this agent of chaos kind of thing. He's like this perpetuator of chaos almost. I find it funny how casually these people are holding that fucking gold statue. The size of that thing, that must have weighed like, if it was actual real gold, it probably would have weighed like 30 pounds. And they're just kind of like, whatever. They flip it around like it's a piece of paper or something.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about like the Gato and the sort of the adventure subplot of like getting to it, and they like, oh, we've got to step on the jaguar and that sort of, which is very sort of like ripped off from Indiana Jones sequel sort of stuff, but kind of works in context. It's a very minor part of the film,
Well, I'm actually going to piggyback on a few things you just said. Number one, I think that whole subplot was basically just, hey, let's show that Stifler. Hey, remember Stifler? He's actually really ripped, and we want to show him with his shirt off. So here we go. He'll take his shirt off so we can go underwater, see this thing. There we go. Now you see he's in good shape. What was it? I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, next. I actually had something somewhere. Oh, yeah, it was just about duct tape. Nothing interesting as usual, what I have to say. But just, if any of you guys have ever been to Michigan, you guys will realize that plane is no bullshit. Duct tape will fix anything. I have seen the most incredible duct tape jobs in Michigan of how you can put cars back together. So, listen, I have no doubt that plane was completely safe.
Thankfully, I have never been to Michigan.
I've passed through the airport, ironically enough. That's about it, though. So,
no, I have lived in Michigan for the last 10 years.
I was going to piggyback on the Gato comment there, too, because it's like that would be the main plot of an Indiana Jones movie, to get the ancient artifact or a Tomb Raider situation and that kind of thing. It just happens to be what this one guy's going after, and nobody believes him. And it's a really great moment when he gets it, and he's like, I finally got it. And he's yelling angrily like I said, where he's just so happy he got it. Screw the world, I did it. And Beck's like, shut the fuck up. And it's great. It's like, who gives a shit? But the whole idea, like, he wants the gato for the fortune and the glory, the old Indiana Jones comment. And they both look at Rosario Dawson. It's like, what, do you think this is going to bring like prosperity and crops and things? It's like, no, I'm going to sell it for money and we'll be able to get
it's very
like,
realistic look
good.
at
I like it. Because maybe it is mystical, or maybe, look, we can just, build housing.
No, really, Rosario Dawson is the best character in the film by far, in terms of, just, you guys are both complete idiots. I'm just gonna take care of it. It's fine.
Remember, she almost
holds
shot
it
him
all
in the
together.
boat. She pulled the trigger on the boat, and if it wasn't for the rock, Stifler would have been shot.
Yeah, well, and maybe that's the ending we all should have had. Stifler's dead, and then Rosario and Dwayne go off and kill the bad guys,
and bang out.
And I would totally watch that.
Of course you would. So would I.
And it's funny, that El Gato thing. There's probably more gold in that statue than they got out of that ridiculously large fucking mine that they got going on there with. Jesus Christ. I've heard of strip mines, but that's like a fucking impact crater size fucking mine there, where thousands of people, it looks like, working on it, and they've got all these rickety wooden ladders going up and stuff, and it's almost surreal.
It looked like the back of the temple behind the bar in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, kind of thing.
I had a Gary
Wrath of
flashbacks.
God.
Wrath of God flashbacks for that. Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a bit over the top in terms of the scale. This is a it didn't really make a lot of money, whatever. But this is a mainstream action movie made in 2003, and the central thing at the center of the movie is, aren't we all just kind of living off the wealth mined from the developing world? Yeah. All the actual white people in this movie are awful, and I am totally here for it.
Well, white people in general are awful.
Yeah, including all the people in this podcast.
Oh yeah,
I'm not awful. I'm a good person. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm. You own two slaves.
But you're Canadian, so it's fine.
Oh, damn, that gets me too, then.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're both Canadians, so we're exceptional.
I'm Canadian, too. Fuck.
I'm an American. Wah, wah.
Oh, you guys have never done anything right or wrong, whatever it is.
So
I don't even know anymore.
Do we have any sort of final thoughts that we want to throw out here?
Yes, Lee, I do. You know what I have to do now. I hope this doesn't offend anyone, but we do need to do a nudity report on this movie. And there's exactly 0 nudity in this movie. So, however,
Rosario Dawson is amazing in this. So,
Yes, she is.
This was PG-13.
So let's say you do wish to pleasure your man member, and you want to look at Rosario Dawson. Do you have options to do that? Yes, you do. She's been in a number of movies, I think about 5 or so, where she's shown stuff. However, I just want to highlight a few, because in the movie Trance, she does not only full frontal nudity, but she is completely shaved in that movie, which is very rare that a mainstream actress actually shows you her labia. But she does in this movie, so there you go. However, what if you're old school and you're like, hey, you know what, Greg? I don't like labia. I want to see the old-fashioned bush, just like my mom used to have. Well, you know what?
Hold on.
You've
do
got
you have this? Do you have this conversation a lot? Do people say to you, "No, I don't like labia"?
Listen,
I don't think this is an argument that people have.
Listen, I know people. I won't name names, but their names are Nick, and they're just weird people. And you know what? So let's say that's the case. Let's say you're one of those old-fashioned people. You can go to the movie Alexander, and you can see Rosario Dawson in all her glory with a bush. So there you go. We got the old school enthusiasts who enjoy a good old-fashioned bush, and the new people who are like, no, I don't want pubes in my mouth. I like the labia. You can see both. So what a great actress. She's got so much talent, and let's hope she's got more talent in the future.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else with anything to add before we sort of finish off here? Or?
I was going to bring up the fact that we had this ending with the silly fruit that saves the day, because he's a chef, remember? He's going to open a restaurant.
They set it up at the beginning.
Yeah. But also...
I actually really like the element of he's trying to become a chef. That's his motivation. If we had a series of these where he was, and now I'm like trying to get funding for this restaurant, and I'm trying to like, and then I've got to go and do this little adventure in a way of, like pleasing the food safety board or whatever.
It's a trilogy to get him to his restaurant. Like,
I know.
Especially if he's out there doing artifact hunting with Stifler to find these things to sell for the restaurant. It always works.
He's kind of a working class hero in that way, right? Although, petite bourgeois, I'm not gonna, whatever, let's not bring a Marxist analysis into this necessarily, but
I do like the very ending of it too. He's like he's getting the thunder and lightning thing on him, and he's like, I'm just kidding, I'm gonna get in the truck. Because they know what this is all about. They started off hating each other in the jungle and they led up to this point. The sad thing is, I know that Peter Berg has been talking about wanting to do a sequel for some time. It's just a matter of the audience didn't really care, so he's having a hard time making it happen. I want it to happen because I want more of these, even though
I think making this podcast is going to be the thing that kickstarts it, really.
Oh, it's going to push it over the edge for sure.
Yeah, that's going to happen. A little bit of trivia here, 2 pieces. According to the director on commentary, Christopher Walken had never seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and therefore was reluctant to use the phrase Oompa Loompas. And director provided Walken with a copy of the movie, and after watching it, Walken decided to use the phrase. So there you go. That sounds like a very Walken thing.
Oompa Loompa? I don't know. What do you mean, Oompa Loompa?
Christopher Walken is a man that can make no be a 3-syllable word.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger as the man in the club. This cameo was filmed the same day he filmed his appearance as the Terminator for the Super Bowl. It was completely unprepared. He happened onto the set that day and was asked to make a quick appearance in the film. People watching this movie, enthusiasts, basically cite this as his have fun to Dwayne Johnson as a passing of the torch. And I guess that kind of has played out. It took like 10 years to do so, but sort of has played out, I guess.
But Arnold's career also took like 10 years to really start off. So,
In context, it was weird because it makes no sense otherwise. Because who was that man?
Yeah, it's like, have fun. It's like
was that someone else trying to get him, or is he the guy that got him in the club? Like, there's nothing setting that up or explaining that.
It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger basically broke the fourth wall by walking into another universe.
It makes more sense that is Beck going into a club and Arnold Schwarzenegger is walking out saying "have fun" than Arnold playing a character does.
I like the idea that he's another retrieval expert who's kind of gotten a little bit to seed, who was called in and was just like, no, I'm not going to do this shit.
Here's the thing, though. Rock looks confused because he doesn't know who the fuck this guy is. If they had done the scene differently, where Beck comes in and hits Schwarzenegger, and it's like they do the fucking Predator fucking muscled up fucking handshake.
Have Schwarzenegger be the guy who like informs The Rock about all the this is this guy. He's that he delivers all those lines. And then The Rock's like, oh, man, I'm going to have to kill these guys.
The problem if they did any of those things was they probably would have had to pay a lot of money to Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, he was literally on set, and you want to come do it? Sure. Like, right now? All right, let's go. It was that literal of a thing, so.
It's still fun for what they got from it. Although I really wanted the scene where Rock killed that motherfucker who hit him with the beanbag gun. That Australian guy.
That's in the third film of the trilogy.
Yeah, he finally catches up to him. It's like Blade finally catching up to the vampire he promised to kill in like the beginning of the film. It's like, I'm going to catch you.
You remember when I promised I'd kill you last? I didn't lie.
Yeah, I didn't lie. Exactly. Budget for this was $85 million. Box office was $80.9 million. So it kind of blew its gasket there.
It found its life on video and stuff afterwards. Like it didn't light the world on fire. The Rock was not a draw yet. He's the biggest draw now, but he's
the most well paid fucking actor in Hollywood, is he not at this point?
He is officially,
More than Robert Downey Jr.
Overall.
I think so, yeah.
He gets the highest per picture command right now.
Robert Downey Jr. is probably number 2, if I did take a guess. But DVD info, Universal Pictures Home Entertainment released a DVD in 2004, and then there was a Blu-ray and DVD re-release in 2009 and in 2010. So there you go. Yeah, this was great to have you, Scott. It was an absolute pleasure. You and I have been podcasting for a while on other podcasts, and You should talk about them now as well as your own podcast.
Well, yeah, we talk about wrestling stuff. Hey, a connection with The Rock. That's over on Jobber Radio, jobberradio.com, on iTunes and all that fun stuff. But my own stuff is Guilty Pleasure Cinema. Like I said, I celebrate the movies you're embarrassed to love. So Rundown was right up my alley there. Battleship was one. Dredd, Judge Dredd. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That'll trigger some, I'm sure. Loads of stuff here and there. Arnold movies. The Schwarzenegger stuff is Predator's my favorite, so that kind of stuff. But that's at guiltypleasurecinema.com, and my handle Cyclops Scott. There's 2 S's in there. That's Twitch, that's YouTube, that's Twitter, that's all that stuff. So it's on there, and I do a box office report Sundays and just other general movie talk as well.
Awesome. Greg, you don't do anything, but it was great to have you back.
Well, that's not true. I do my wife occasionally.
Yeah, but you don't need to announce that. Like,
Is there a place online we can experience that? Because
well,
that's
not yet, but for the time being, I'd like to plug it anyway.
Fair enough.
No pun intended. Yeah, well,
yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, occasionally I put out a Beer Burglar review, which are private anyway, so you don't really get to see them. So yeah, literally, you're right. In terms of this sphere, I do nothing.
And you do it well, Daniel. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
People should probably not find me. I'm at Daniel E. Harper on Twitter. All my stuff goes up there. I have a couple other podcasts that are intermittently updated. Mostly what I do is punch Nazis on Twitter, and it's great. So,
Sweet.
But aren't Nazis people too?
No, yeah, they are.
They're people worth punching.
They are people worth punching, yes.
Ah, fair enough.
Yeah. And you can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find all the requisite links to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group, They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, on Facebook, and you can find out what's coming up on the podcast. What is coming up next time is we're going to be recording, actually tomorrow, put something in the can. We're going to be talking about the Jason Statham film, The Transporter.
Yeah. And it turns out I actually go on vacation occasionally, and so we're doing this compressed schedule. So,
But Daniel, what might be coming up after The Transporter, though? You have any ideas?
I have some ideas, but I think we'll discuss them off air.
Okay,
crazy.
Sounds good. So, thank you guys for joining me. This was a lot of fun. Enjoyed the conversation, and thank you all for listening. And we will see you again when we see you. Goodbye.
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 これからみんなでめちゃくちゃ踊って騒ごう騒ごう。Headbanger. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Give me some new. Give me some new. Give me some new. Mississippi putting it down. I'm the hottest round. I told y'all. Y'all can't stop me now. Listen to me now. I'm lasting 20 rounds. And if you want me, then come on get me now. Is you with me now? Then biggie bounce. I know you dig the way I switch my style. Holla, holla. People sing around. Now people gather round. Now people jump around. Get your freak on. 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 People you don't know, me and Timberland been high since 20 years ago. What the dealio? Now what the drillio? If you wanna battle me, then let me know. Got the feeling, son. Let me throw you some. People, here I come. Now sweat me when I'm done. We got the radio shook like we gotta go. Hush your mouth, silence when I spit it out. In your face, open your mouth, give you a taste. Hello, ain't no stopping me. Copywritten, so don't don't copy me. Y'all do it sloppily, and y'all can't come close to me. I know you feel me now. I know you hear me loud. I scream it loud and proud. Missy gon' blow it down. People gon' play me now. In and out of town. Cause I'm the best around. With the crazy style. Get your freak on. 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 You don't wanna speak my name. Mess around, get that ass blown away. Blah, fool gone away. I ain't never like you tell anyway. Missy got something to say. I ride down the block in an Escalade. Bling bling all in your face. I think you might need to put on your shades. I know you feel me though. You're hating on me, but you hear me though. 20-inch rim sitting crazy low. I'ma keep the party live. Me and Timberland gon' flip it tonight. Keep your hands in the sky. Wave around like you crazy high. Huh. Time to lick shots. Time to see you dance. Hey, you why you fucking blah. Time to lick shots. Time to see you dance. Hey, you why you fucking blah.
You've been listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For other episodes, our Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Facebook group links, as well as podcasts and websites of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you, drive through.